Hey, Angela, I like your background. It looks like a lot of fun. It looks like you're ready for a summer retreat, go play somewhere.
It is Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and the theme today at my other job for our Zoom meetings was favorite concert. So that's really the only concerts I've ever been to that.
It's hard to tell what it is, but it almost looks like some kind of a carnival with all kinds of lights.
I liked it.
See what that is. Okay. That is kind of a carnival, isn't it?
Rocky, as far as you know, then are we good to go?
We are live on YouTube, and Mariah, are we live on UGTV?
Oh,
We are.
all right, excellent. We will get started. So good evening. My name's Melissa Bynum, and we are coming to you live from quarantine. And we are going to host tonight the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee, and it will be followed by Administration and Human Services. Before I call the meeting to order, I do want to announce that due to COVID-19, the committee members, the staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom. Any participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise, as well as your Zoom computers. During the meeting, make sure you announce yourself by name and title when you speak so the public that's observing knows who is speaking. And this is critical given the number of remote participants that we have, and it is our current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to our COVID-19 requirements, public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public has been allowed to submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those will be included in this record of the meeting. However, for this evening's two meetings, we have received no emailed public comments. And I will now call our meeting to order of Public Works and Safety Standing Committee and ask our clerk to call the roll.
Groneman,
Here.
Philbrook,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Markley,
Here.
Bynum.
Here. We do not have any revisions on tonight's agenda, and the first order is the minutes from both February 24 and March 23rd meetings. May I have a motion?
Commissioner Mike Kane, motion to approve.
Commissioner
Mayor,
Philbrook, second. Oh, sorry, Christian. Didn't mean to step on your toes.
You're good.
Give it to Christian.
Oh. So we have a motion by Commissioner Kane and a second by Commissioner Philbrook to approve both sets of minutes. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye. Yes.
Philbrook,
Yes.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. And those minutes have been approved. In our committee agenda work, item number 1 is the 47th Street improvements, and this is the first of the 4 items that are on our agenda. It's an interlocal agreement with the city of Westwood, Kansas regarding improvements to 47th Avenue, Rainbow Boulevard to Mission Road. And I am not sure who is on board. It looks like we have Troy Shaw with our Public Works Division. Troy, are you the presenter on this item?
Yes, Commissioner.
Please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Troy Shaw, I'm the county engineer for Wyandotte County. What we're looking at here is an interlocal agreement, as you mentioned, with the city of Westwood for improvements on 47th Street between Rainbow Boulevard and Mission. The city of Westwood has submitted and applied or received a grant from Mark for around little over $1 million in funding to make complete street improvements to 47th Street. And 47th Street is basically split right down the middle. Half of it's UG owned and half of it's owned by Westwood in that section of the road. So this agreement is basically a partner on the remaining share of the expenses related to that to turn that into a complete street project. The overall estimate currently is a little under 1.5 million. Like I said, the grant is a little over $1 million. So between the two of us, we're looking at an additional roughly 500,000 split. However, it may be a little more than that. Just as we know, we would probably program somewhere between 250 and 450, just because of we know expenses get a little more when you start working on KDOT projects, as we've seen in the past. So, so this is just to have a resolution to enter into that agreement with KDOT and the city of Westwood.
Mr. Shaw, it's Melissa Bynum. So the grant was applied for through the city of Westwood.
Correct.
Does that cover our financial cost, or is our part not covered by a grant?
So the grant is for the road project on 47th Street. So it's the whole road from Rainbow to Mission. It doesn't matter if it's in UG or Westwood for the grant money. It's all there. So 1,047,000, I think, is the actual total amount of the grant. And it's an 80-20 match. So then the 20% remainder needs to be paid for by the city of Westwood, and a split between the city of Westwood and UG is the way we're looking at it, because we own half that road. So we will get a new improvements to that road, as well as maintenance items as far as curbs and pavement as well during this.
Great.
So
That's
that
great.
means,
That sounds good.
I'm sorry, Melissa, to step on your toes. This is Commissioner Philbrook. And so Troy, that means basically we're just paying 10% of it,
Roughly, yes, correct.
approximately that.
Approximately, yeah. It'll be, we will pay whatever the difference over that 1,047,000 is, that is the grant, but we'll split that with Westwood because we own half the road and they own half the road.
Okay. I move that we approve item number 1.
Commissioner Mark,
Commissioner Markley, did you have a question or comment?
I just said second.
Oh, great. So anyone else, questions, comments from any other commissioners? We have a motion and a second to approve this item. And I believe no comments from the public again. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
The second item is a request to apply for and accept fiscal 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant. And I see that from the police department, we have Assistant Chief Hallmark and Rance Quinn. I always forget your title. Are you a major?
I'm currently the acting deputy chief, ma'am.
Acting Deputy Chief. Good for you. That's good news. So we have Deputy Chiefs Hallmark and Quinn. I will turn this over to one or both of you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Hallmark, speaking on behalf of the police department this evening. We are seeking approval along with the sheriff's office to apply for and accept the federal fiscal year 20 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. This particular grant is similar to our Edward Byrne JAG awards in that the funding is based on a formula, and actually we're eligible for this grant because we are routine Edward Byrne JAG award recipients. For this particular grant, we've been allocated $318,256 to spend on coronavirus preparedness, response, and prevention. The police department, along with the sheriff's office, have put together a proposed budget that incorporates several items to meet these spending requirements, primarily personal protective equipment such as gloves, masks, gowns, sanitation products, etc. Once awarded, we will have until January 20th of 2022 to spend down the grant funds. This grant is 100% federally funded with no match requirement from the UG.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for that. Are there questions from the commissioners or Mr. Groneman?
Well, I raised my hand, but I don't know who's watching the raise hand thing, so I'll just,
I'm not, so.
okay, so I can ignore that. I can lower my hand and just talk. This is Commissioner Philbrook, and I want to thank you guys for coming forward to request those funds. And did I hear you say We're open for this because we have been receiving grants from the same entities in the past, and I guess that's supposed to infer that we do a good job.
Yes, Commissioner Steve Hallmark again. That is correct. We have received the JAG grant, the Edward Byrne JAG grant several years now, and we partner
Okay,
with the
And-
Sheriff's Department for that as well.
great. Okay, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
This is Commissioner Mike Kane. Move for approval.
Second, Phil
Ramirez,
Brooks.
second.
All right, excellent. This is Melissa Bynum. So we have a motion by Commissioner Kane, and we'll take our second from Commissioner Ramirez this time. And if there are no other questions, I will call for the roll.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you both very much. The third item is a body camera update also with our police department. And I do not know if interim Chief York is on the call or not, but I know we do have both Deputy Chief Hallmark and Quinn here. So are one of you going to take this?
Deputy Chief Quinn will present.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
All right, ma'am, I appreciate the opportunity for us to kind of give you an update on our body worn camera project here. Rocky has kind of guided me how I'm going to share my screen here to start this PowerPoint. So if you can give me just a second. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, I can. Yes, I see heads nodding.
All right, so the body worn camera project, we're just going to kind of give you a brief history as to what the project's for, why we're doing it, and the current status and future steps for that. The project is to outfit our marked patrol units, so the cars that you see driving around every day out on our streets with in-car cameras. Those cameras then will sync with the body worn cameras worn by our officers. Each of our officers who work in our operations assignments within the department, as well as our animal service officers and some of our special units, will all receive their own personal body worn camera. And the newly acquired cameras will replace an aging fleet that we currently have in our cars that are, some of those are 10 to 15 years old, and many of them are on shoestrings and duct tape to make those work if we can get those to work. So it's an important tool that we use in our cars now. We just don't have the body worn cameras, and they would record any enforcement contact with the citizens of our community. Why are we doing this? Well, what it does, studies have shown across the country, body worn cameras improve officer safety. It allows us to kind of like use videos that we see for training purposes and, mistakes we may have made. It enhances public trust so that the community can see that we're doing business the correct way, and we're able to kind of like squash any kind of incidents that come about by having the body worn camera footage on for us. It strengthens evidence of crime scenes and investigations, so the camera may actually capture some evidence or information that we may not have realized was on that scene, and those videos can then be used in courts. It increases our officer accountability, keeps our officers doing the right thing when they're on camera. Again, studies have shown that they act, not that they normally act inappropriately, but they act more so appropriately. And it improves officer training, again, by being able to see the mistakes that they made, and it reduces liability to our organization. So our current status is we've completed a body worn camera pilot of 2 different vendors. Due to the fact we're in an open forum here, I've been told to kind of stay away from naming those 2 vendors. But our preferred vendor was selected. We're currently in contract negotiations with them, and we hope to wrap up that contract negotiations within the next 30 days. The COVID situation obviously has slowed the process a little bit because that company, as well as us, we're kind of working remotely, and kind of has definitely slowed the process down. However, we're continuing to move just a little bit slower than we were. And so to kind of, our future steps here is we're going to complete these negotiations and award the contract and implement a kickoff of our body-worn camera, in-car camera process. And we'll create a timeline from that, working with the vendor, obtain the equipment, obviously, and then get the infrastructure working. You know, how do we get data back from our stations back to our servers that house that data? We've got a lot of that infrastructure already in place, but until we get the actual equipment across our entire organization, you know, there's little kinks that we would have to work out. The way we're going to roll that out is that we're looking to train our officers in-house. Probably most likely like a train the trainer type situation where we take our police training officers and selected individuals who may be a little bit more techno savvy than some of the other people and train them how to use these cameras. They would then help train our officers, and we'll do one station at a time. So most likely that station may be either Midtown or East Patrol because they piloted these cameras with us in the past. And so it would be easiest to get them spun up. And we'll work on that for 2 to 3 weeks, work out any types of kinks, allow those officers to kind of tell us the good and the bad, and then we'll roll to the next station. So the entire thing, you're getting across all 4 stations may take a couple of months to get it all up and running, but that's to be expected in a project as big as this. And then, so as we're launching that particular system, we want to educate our community. How we're going to go about doing that? Well, we're going to sit down with our district courts and municipal courts, show them, you know, the goods and the bads of body-worn camera footage and in-car camera footage, and kind of show them how to receive these videos, how they're going to get them from us when we have evidence to send them. Ideally, we would love to send a link to them, and they would just download from that link, and it just gets so. We're not burning DVDs like we have been in the past, and that's just a labor-intensive project. After that, or during that, we're going to do press releases to our community, again, educating kind of the good and the bad, what to expect from body-worn camera footage. You know, it's not the see-all, be-all kind of thing. I mean, there's going to be things that cameras miss. There's going to be stuff that they may see that their officers didn't see. So we have to educate our community when it comes to those sort of things. And then community presentations to our community policing groups and any other entity within our community that needs to kind of understand how these cameras are going to work. And so with that, I'll end my presentation here and I'll take any questions.
Are there questions among our committee members? I've got a couple. Commissioner Philbrook.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how many units is that? Grants, do you know?
Yes, ma'am. So body-worn or in-car cameras, it's about 101 in-car cameras that would outfit the majority of our cars that we have in service. And the last request, it was about 303 body-worn cameras.
What did that mean? I'm sorry, Rance, I didn't understand the last request. I'm like, are you telling me that we've gotten a third now of what we're requesting, or you're saying we've gotten some in the past? What are you saying?
No, so body-worn cameras, not everybody in the department is going to be issued a camera. So people like myself who don't work the streets, sit in an office all day, there's no need to spend that money. And so just the officers who work in our patrol units, if you will, our specialized units, traffic enforcement, those individuals would be the ones that are issued those. We'll have some that we identify for training, and then our animal service officers, you know, that deal with very, very delicate situations from time to time. And so those, that total will be about 303 body-worn cameras, and about 30 of those are spares. So if one breaks down, we have another one to, you know, to put in place of the one that broke down. And then 101 cameras outfit all of our patrol cars that are working in our operations, or our patrol units, as well as our spare cars. Again, our special enforcement units, traffic support unit, those sort of things.
Well, thank you, Rance. Thank you for letting me know. So I'll make sure that I behave like a good commissioner.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mike Kane, move for approval.
we've got a motion, and is there a second?
Mark
This
Lee,
item
second.
was for information only, I believe, Commissioner.
Oh, that's right. It is an information only item.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Deputy Chief, I do have a couple of, a question and a comment. This is Commissioner Bynum. So I know we've been working on the body worn cameras since 2015. And I'm glad that we are close to implementation. But one question I've had during that whole time is for that citizen who might be wanting to have a communication that's private or confidential with their officer at, for example, a community meeting where they're trying to share some sort of information for that officer to be aware of about crime and whatnot. So I'm concerned about that. My question really is if you have developed your protocols and standard operating procedures yet for wearing the cameras, and is there an allowance for that citizen who wants to have a private communication?
Yeah, so the cameras, we have a draft policy that has been reviewed by our body worn camera grant entity. And they feel that we fall in line with all of the other policies across the country. And it's typically that the officers would use them for enforcement type of encounters, meaning I stop somebody on a traffic stop or I do a pedestrian check. I have to arrest someone, that sort of thing. So they would be on those situations to capture those incidents. However, just talking to somebody, receiving information and stuff like that, it's left to the officer's discretion to whether they turn on the camera or turn off the camera. But however, all enforcement, we want to be caught with the cameras.
Okay. And then, with regard to the education piece and sharing this information with the community, I know that during our COVID-19 experience here, our mayor has had good success meeting regularly with the faith community and also a second group of folks that work in the social service arena. And you might be able to reach out to the mayor's office for those contacts and perhaps do some community education through both of those channels as well. I would think those would be two additional good ways to help share the information. So just a suggestion on that.
Very good.
And yeah, anything else from anyone on this item? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, and that was information only, so we will release you and let you get on with your evening, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then the last item on our agenda, I think, is a request to submit an application to FEMA for a SAFER grant. This is through the fire department. So who do we have here with fire that's
Chief
presenting?
Callahan's here, Commissioner. Mike
Chief
Callahan.
Callahan. I can't see you, but it's good to have you here, and looks like you're going to show us a presentation.
Well, Rocky's going to help me, but yes, I'm going to show you a presentation. Some of this information you've already seen, but there have been some updates, so I'll go through it one more time. So the SAFER grant application, which is staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, the department's proposing hiring 18 additional firefighters. Typically, the SAFER grant, if awarded, would reduce our initial fiscal expenditures for the 18 firefighters in the first 3 years by 75%, 75%, and 35% respectively. You can see there the costs to the UG each year 1 and year 2 are about $259,000, and year 3 is about $673,000, although the savings that would be garnered would be about $1.9 million. However, actually some good COVID news for a change. If we go to that next slide. So because of the COVID-19 implications, FEMA has waived all, back one, Rocky, please. FEMA has waived all local match requirements for SAFER grant hires. So this anticipates that the SAFER grant, if awarded, would reduce our initial fiscal expenditures for those same 18 firefighters in the first 3 years by about $1,035,000 over the 3-year period for a total 3-year cost savings of $3.1 million. Next slide, please. So those new hires, if approved, these firefighters would be utilized to convert 6 of our current 3 firefighter pumpers into 4 firefighter pumpers. That would allow the department to conform with the NFPA 1710 standard for the arrival of a fire company within 4 minutes, as well as the contemporaneous standard to place 4 firefighters on that same scene within 4 minutes. This would also enable us to comply with the OSHA regulation of 2 in and 2 out at a fire scene. The expectation would also be an organic attenuation of certain overtime costs by these hires. So that's all I have for this presentation. I'm open for questions.
Are there questions from any of our committee members? I have 2 questions, Chief.
Okay, go right ahead.
When we say year 1 of a 3-year grant, what year would that be? 2021?
It would be the first year that we hired those firefighters using the grant funds.
Whatever year that is.
Correct. It would probably be, as you said, 2021 to get everybody processed and hired. It would probably take us into 2021, but yes, that's correct.
And if I understand the good news from FEMA, basically 3 years on their dime with no match from us. So totally covering the cost of the 18 firefighters for 3 years.
That is correct.
And the cost 3 years after for 18 firefighters, based on today's figures, do we know what that is?
Yeah, it'd be about 1,135,000 a year.
1.3 million.
No, not 1.3, 1.035.
Okay. 1 million, basically.
Correct.
Okay, so a million in new costs beginning in year 4.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Philbrook?
Quick question. Does that include those monies, does that include not only their salaries, but their health care, that sort of thing?
Yes, that's salary and benefit package.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I understand.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Commissioner Kane has his hand up.
Commissioner Kane?
First of all, that's great news. Really appreciate it. My question is how many fire personnel are we still going to be down after we hire these 18?
Down in terms of none, 0.
So
What you
we'll be up to full staff when we hire these 18.
That will be above full. We'll have to create new PIN numbers to hire these 18.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I would take a motion.
I do not see any other hands.
Someone who said mover.
Ramirez, move to approve.
Second, Philbrook.
Okay, excellent. Thank you both. We have a motion by Commissioner Ramirez and a second by Commissioner Philbrook to approve. So if I could have roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. Thank you, Chief, very much. Good luck with the grant application.
Thank you.
And that is the end of our agenda for Public Works and Safety. So I will say good night to Tom Groneman and thank you as always. And I will turn this over to Commissioner Markley so that she can chair the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee meeting and adjourn us as Public Works and Safety.
Thank you, Commissioner Bynum. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, all committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public has been allowed to submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of the meeting. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Philbrook,
Here.
Kane,
Here?
Ramirez,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Markley.
Here, our first order of business is the minutes from our March 23rd meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
This is Commissioner Bynum. Move to approve.
Ramirez, second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Philbrook,
Here.
Kane,
Here?
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye, those minutes have been approved. Item number 1 is our REACH reappointment. We have 2 items on our committee agenda this evening. The first is a reappointment of Rachel Jefferson to the REACH Healthcare Foundation's Community Advisory Committee. I'll ask Allie Porter if she has anything to add.
Good morning, everyone. Allie Porter, Commission Liaison. I just said good morning. Good evening. This is a request from Brenda Sharp, the President and CEO of the REACH Foundation, to reappoint Rachel Jefferson to their Community Advisory Committee. Rachel has already completed 1 term and is eligible for a 2nd term.
And this committee did appoint Ms. Jefferson the first time around. Are there any questions for committee members on this item?
Commissioner Markley, this is Commissioner Bynum, just assuming and hoping that Rachel Jefferson has agreed to continue to serve.
Yes, that's correct.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Rachel Jefferson to the REACH.
Second, Philbrook.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye, that takes us to item number 2, which is an IT update. Alan House, our Assistant County Administrator, is here to make presentation.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. This evening we have an update, and I'll be turning it over to Kevin Bibbs, our Director of Information Technology, and he'll be talking about actions that his team has been taking both to help respond to COVID, as well as to provide an update on fiber and the implementation of the fiber network across the community to UG facilities, which will tie back to the earlier presentation that you heard from Deputy Chief Quinn on body cameras. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Bibbs. Kevin, I believe you're on mute.
I would be on mute. Thank you. Thank you for that, Alan. Okay, I will share my screen now, and good evening. Again, my name is Kevin Bibbs, the Director of Technology. And are you able to see my screen? Okay, great. So first here, our COVID-19 response. So pre-COVID, we deployed a new firewall to enhance security and connectivity. We also deployed endpoint protection to all UG employees, which work hand in hand with our firewall to try to provide.
I'm having a hard time hearing it.
To try to provide an extra layer of security. Sorry.
Kevin, just
Yes.
a second.
You
There's
have some
kind of a static when you're speaking.
Feedback.
Okay. Okay, are you able to hear me a little bit better now?
No.
You're having feedback or something, Kevin.
Hearing not.
My apologies. I'm gonna try to connect
Hearing not completely.
via the phone. Okay.
I'm sure the irony won't be lost on members of this committee of the technology director having technology issues. The audio, but that's
Actually,
true for
Alan,
everybody.
Universal.
really happy. It really makes me happy. It lets me know I'm not alone.
That's true for all of us.
I'm the
Yes.
worst one yet. I appreciate all his problems.
Oh, by the way, Mike, it was nice of you to let us see something other than your forehead up. Thanks. You look, you were playing that Kilroy thing.
I will say while we're waiting, I still haven't figured out how to have my screen open where I can see y'all and I can see the presentation we're watching and I can see my little script all at once. Like I have two screens, so I'm lucky in that. But still, I feel like I'm either looking away to look at the presentation or I'm looking away to look at the script. Like I'm gonna figure this out before we're done. I might figure it out I'm gonna get a third screen.
Commissioner Markley,
Just
when you
one on
figure
each.
that out, you let me know. I was having the same struggle, so I printed my guide today so that I could just have it in front of me on paper. So
We're so happy you two commissioners are running the show. That way the rest of us don't have to worry about reading the script. Just you guys do.
I'm just glad that Bridget sets us up with the script so that I can't mess it up.
Commissioner Markley, it's probably also a good time to say thank you to all of these staff people who've just been working so hard every day and totally changed the way we all do business. It seemed like on a dime as far as I was concerned. So now's as good a time as any to thank Rocky and all our deputy county administrators and everybody that's just been working so hard for us. And Allie, of course.
Way of life, yeah, definitely.
Poor Sally.
What would we do without her?
Okay, Rocky, can you try to unmute me?
I'm sorry, what was that, Kevin?
Unmute him, I think he said.
What is the last four of the number you're calling in from?
It is the 913 number.
Okay.
You are unmuted.
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Perfect.
Awesome. So yes, I am glad to be able to share and let you guys
Oh, wait,
know
we
that I
gotta-
am human.
Rocky, can you mute his other self? I think we're hearing both. We're hearing through both windows there.
There we go. I think we should be good now. Much better. So yes, this is all a learning experience for I as well, being in technology. So I'm glad that you guys can see that. So I will try to jump back in here and we will pick up. Okay, great. Okay, so back to our COVID-19 response. So we deployed a new firewall with the enhanced security and connectivity, the deployment of our endpoint protections to all of our UG employees provide an additional layer of security. We've also been working really hard at getting our desktop machines upgraded to Windows 10. During this time also, we started our VPN connectivity to the UG. During COVID-19, understanding how important remote capability was going to be, we've deployed an additional UG Access 2 portal, which provides access into your connection with the UG as if you were sitting at your desk. We've established an IT help desk, email for employees to actually email for assistance if they happen to be out of the office.
And we've recently implemented a tool to remote assist on any device that has internet capability. And that includes desktops, iPads, and even mobile phone devices, which has been great for my team. We are providing all eligible UG employees access to UG Access or some type of VPN software. We have been assisting the health department in 311 with any telephony needs or IVR changes. The team has also been working for website development and deployed and updated COVID-19 with our new Open Cities platform. And this platform provides the ability for responsiveness with mobile devices, as well as ADA compliance out of the box, digital forms, and we also are looking into the multiple languages feature.
I could, Kevin, just back to that slide real quick. If you want to just talk in terms of the numbers of employees, early days of the COVID response that the team, set up with remote access, and then, people that there were several hundred employees, as I recall, that went from being, physically housed to working remotely.
Sure. I definitely would say in the early days, we probably stayed between 50 to 100 individuals that were connected. Currently, I believe last check, we were somewhere around 300-400 total number of employees, and probably more that actually have access. And as we get into the next slide with Office 365, you'll see that, still some are using additional technologies and not actually needing to have their entire desktop.
So in the span of just a couple of weeks, the DOTS team was able to work with departments across the UG to get employees who hadn't previously had the ability to work remotely access, get them whatever they needed to be able to do their jobs remotely, and to continue to provide the services that our residents and our businesses need, but from a different location.
Okay. So infrastructure and applications to the cloud. So enhanced security, expanded flexibility, and increased redundancy are three key components that we try to keep in mind as we look at our applications as we move forward. So email or Office 365 allows most users to be able to get to their email and other Microsoft products by just going to portal.office.com, which has provided great access to our employees during this particular time. Microsoft Dynamics, which is the 311 system, is currently hosted as a software as a service, or SaaS as it's commonly referred to, and it is in the cloud as well, which has allowed our 311 group to continue to provide the great customer service that our community has been aware of. Our website software, our Parks and Rec, are two other software as a service applications that will be hosted in the cloud as well. We have also, during this time, established the UG's first cloud infrastructure environment with our geospatial system being in the Microsoft Azure Government Cloud, which again provides that enhanced security, flexibility, and redundancy that we're looking for. And we believe with that solid foundation that as we move into our Excella upgrade, this will provide a great foundation for the future. And so next, our UG network progress. So for connections completed in 2019, there were quite a few for the police department, the police special operations unit. You've got fire departments with Hutton Road, our NRC, fleet, annex, aging, our elections office, our health center, our juvenile justice center, and our 911 to City Hall, our south route, which actually completed our ring design of the north and the south loop, which we'll show in the next slide. But it's very critical because, again, back to our flexibility, security, and redundancy, this loop actually gives us the opportunity to withstand a fiber cut at any of those locations without causing any downtime, which is great. We have also acquired a backup internet provider in Unite Private Networks, which again is another level of redundancy to be able to prioritize traffic. In 2020, the community centers that are near the fiber lines, so Kensington Community Center, Argentine, and Armourdale, they currently have fiber running to those buildings. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, progress has had to slow, but we are excited to be able to get back in there when time provides so we can set up Wi-Fi and be able to provide that service to our community. Those that are pending are Beatrice Lee, Eisenhower. There are a number of fire stations, as well as those that are near the fiber lines. We've had discussions with the Speedway Operations Center, the Animal Control with the PD, as well as Memorial Hall. And we will start looking at replacing fiber within City Hall to be able to provide a faster connection to those employees that are in those buildings. And lastly, we will be working with the traffic department to get the traffic signals connected to the fiber. And so I just wanted to be able to provide a map. And so just to give you a little information, the purple is actually the fiber as it exists today. The red dots are for the fire stations. The blue are the PD stations. And the green, which apologize that they appear to be blending in, but those are the UG facilities.
So commissioners, as you may recall, the initial impetus for fiber was in support of the body camera project from the PD. And so that the original design of that was then leveraged to look at where are other UG facilities writ large that could be connected to the fiber, and also what are those community benefits that could be developed by providing public Wi-Fi access in places like our community centers. And so phase one has been completed, which was the connection of all the police station locations to support body cameras. Then phase two, there were some additional sites such as the special operations site for PD, still looking at animal control as a next site as well. And then as the next was to start connecting up other UG facilities. So as Kevin said, the annex, election office, all those sort of facilities came as part of that phase two. And now we're really into kind of phase three, which is connecting up fire stations that are along existing routes, as well as the new Station 12 on Hutton Road in Leavenworth. And so we have over the last couple of years made considerable sort of steady progress in connecting up locations onto kind of a main fiber network, and with that opened up new possibilities and new options for both how we provide things like Wi-Fi to residents, but also the capabilities that UG employees can take advantage of within those locations. So we just wanted to give you kind of this update and connect it back to the original origins, if you will, of the goal of having a UG specific fiber network.
Thank you, Alan and Kevin. I mean, I would just say, I think the movement toward VPN usage and toward the cloud was, it's something the business world has obviously been stepping toward or has already stepped into. And as is, no offense guys, but as is usual, the government tends to be a step behind in those developments. And I think this virus sort of pushed us forward at probably a greater pace than we might otherwise have moved into that world. But I think it's good. And I think it's the right direction for us to go as an organization, and for us to be able to provide access to information outside of these walls. So I appreciate the update. Are there questions from any other commissioners? This was an information only item, so I would like to say thank you again to staff for your work, and thank you, Kevin, for hanging with it. We could hear you perfectly once we got you on the phone line.
Thank you.
This is our last item for tonight, so this concludes our meeting. Thank everyone for their attendance, and we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.